It's time for Cutting Edge Consciousness with Freeman Michaels and Barnet Bain. Thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
Welcome to Cutting Edge Consciousness. This is Barnet Bain here with my co-host, Freeman Michaels. Good morning, Freeman. Good afternoon.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Good moment. Good moment. It's great to be with you.
It's an extra good moment.
It is an extra good moment.
The reason is because it's the Wives Show.
The Wives Show. Well, it's becoming a tradition. Does 2 years in a row make a tradition?
Yeah, well, we announced
it's more of a commitment than a tradition.
Yeah. We announced last year that it was going to become a tradition.
I don't think we actually get to credibly call it a tradition until it's like 4 or 5 years. I don't know. We'll have to do a little check on that. But it's certainly a commitment, and we're so glad to have you, Jazz, here with us. Jazz Michaels and Sandy Stewart. Welcome.
Thank you.
And we're talking about sex.
Isn't it a little early for that?
That's what you always say.
Dum-dum.
All right. Well, maybe we'll be in the mood by the time we get warmed up. Warmed up. There's a lot to talk about here. It's a big subject.
It's a big subject. It's a prickly subject because, look, so many of us have so much stuff built up around sex, around what it is, what it means, what it ought to mean, and it's complicated.
And, of course, we are in long-standing, committed relationships, and those present very special challenges all of their own. We spent the weekend, last weekend, with 3 other couples, all of whom were in long-standing relationships. Sandy and I have been together for, is it 32 or 33 years we've been together? And 2 of the other couples we were with had 30-year-plus relationships, and another one was, I think, close to 20 years. And your relationship is
12
years.
Yeah.
So these are seasoned relationships, and they pose new sets of challenges. There's a certain kind of glamour that we throw at each other when we initially hook up. You throw your subconscious at them, and it's wildly exciting and wildly exhilarating, and sex that's all you want to do. It's just sex.
Yeah.
And then things begin to change and other considerations drop in, and there's less mystery there. You're not dealing with the unknown anymore. And
you're
dealing
with the quite known. You become very known to each other in ways that, at least in my psyche, aren't initially attractive. In other words, seeing each other.
Disillusioning, you might say.
Yeah.
I disillusion my partner, and I feel disillusioned by it. It's developmental, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a lot to it. I mean, one of the things that there are these, at least in my experience, and Jasmine and I have spoken about this, there are these moments where we go through redefining what sex means, right? Sex initially, as you're saying, is the attraction factor. It's what draws us together, and it's exciting and it's passionate. But, when we've, having kids, for example, changes everything. I remember after Antonia was born, there was this moment of insecurity, right, around whether or not I found you attractive. And we actually went down a kind of storyline for a minute there. Do you feel comfortable talking about that?
Yeah, absolutely. You were in the delivery room, and I thought it was a little too much to handle. And I even see it in the office that I work at, where sometimes couples go, I don't want him in the room when I get my pap smear, or it's just a little too much. And I think that when we had Antonio and you were there and you saw all of it, and there was a moment where, the baby was born and the doctor offered you, you want to cut the umbilical cord. And Freeman said, no, not really. And she said,
not so much.
And she said, no, really, you do. You do want to cut the umbilical cord. He said, no, not really. Like, that's your job. That's what I pay you for. Like, I really don't want to do it. And so after having the baby, I think our relationship, our sexual relationship changed. And I attributed that to Freeman not being as attracted to me, because he had seen that side of me, and that it was not what he found attractive. I was no longer the young, perky, woman that he knew, but now this woman who, revealed
cursed him out
so
in childbirth.
much. Yeah. And so that's kind of the storyline that was running in my head at that time when I was feeling insecure about it.
But we didn't go very far down that path. I mean, it was a storyline that we, thankfully, we all have some background in being able to sort of see these things and a kind of commitment to calling them out as opposed to being run by them.
Right.
And so we made a fundamental decision not to run down that path and to redefine our sexuality and our sex life. And I feel like we've been going through that. There's been several moments of redefining, well, what do we want sex to mean? Not just the prescribed sort of, again, all the movies, all the images of you see the couple getting together, all the passion, and they get together and the movie ends. And the sort of heavy lifting of life, of going through sickness and challenges and coming back around to, in order to really have the relationship we want to have, we have to redefine this for ourselves. I feel like we're going through something of that nature now. We're even looking at our lives now and saying, what would it look like? Because this past year, we've done a lot of work. We were here declaring that we were going to work on our intimacy, and we have, and we feel really connected. And now we're going, or Jasmine's the one that brought it up. She said to me, it's been so great to have these practices and these commitments that we've made, but it feels very heady.
Yeah,
And
it feels very cerebral, like we're thinking about everything, and that's great. At the same time, there's a part of me that wants it to be more authentic, kind of natural. And a perfect example was New Year's Eve. We, always you go out for New Year's Eve, you have these really high expectations, and we had, we went out with another couple, had a great time, and there was still the imaginary what I wanted it to look like. So midnight comes, and we're everyone's getting ready for the midnight and the
We're
fireworks.
on the top deck of the Queen Mary with this other couple and however many thousands of other people, and it's quite a spectacular moment. I decided I was going to capture it on Kodak, right? I was going to take a picture. So there I am. Go ahead. You can tell a story.
And I'm sitting there saying, okay, counting down, 5, 4, 3, 2. And I wanted this like amazing kiss. Like I wanted him to grab me and spin me around. And there he was like fumbling and bumbling with the camera. And I was like, oh my gosh, like you just let that moment go by. And meanwhile, I'm looking around. It's like a movie, and I'm looking around. All these people are embracing and kissing, and they're in the moment. And there Freeman is trying to get capture the moment on the camera. And I'm like, that's what I mean. Like, I just want there to be like that passion of like being in the moment, being connected, feeling, the love, and it's
That's
just
such a great, there's so much in that little story.
Yeah.
A big part of that story for me is the stories we bring to our relationship and the stories we bring about sexuality. So you've got this very romantic sort of Gene Kelly, Ginger Rogers type image
Right.
of being tipped over with your high heel and your toe up. And that's
Exactly
these
right.
images that get locked in our bodies in really young stages. And they can stick and they can get in the way instead of, and then making it about you. Oh, well, all these other people are having this wonderful thing. Why
Right.
aren't I getting it? And where else does that show up
right.
in your life? And, we have the choice when we start, I think, owning what part of us is us, to have some humor in it and be able to look and say, there's my husband. He always wants to, he's always, whatever he's always doing.
Right.
That's a Freeman thing he did.
Right.
That's such a Freeman thing.
Right.
And what I've discovered is earlier you were talking about mystery. Somebody said something about mystery, and it's hard to keep the mystery after the initial, once it's all revealed, it's revealed. And then there are stages with parenting that change the sexuality, because it's really hard to flip from a mother to a lover, I found over the years. 1 minute you've got vomit all over you, and the next minute you're supposed to be in a negligee being all hot and sexy. So that's
Right.
That's another
Not
challenge.
so
Right.
much.
Yeah.
Right.
And then there's the challenge of just aging. And,
Yeah.
you know, as a 61-year-old woman who've spoken to a lot of women, one of the things about 60 being the new 40 is it's true and it's not so true. You know,
Yeah.
our body is still 60. We may have Botox so we can look 40,
Right.
but inside we're 60. And what I find for me is the only thing that has kept, one of the main things that has kept sex interesting for me is delving into my own mystery. It's another kind of mystery that I'm unfolding now. First of all, when Barnet comes to, looks at me in a certain way and I know he's got sex on his mind, in the past, when I was younger and the hormones were jumping, it would be like, that's a good idea. You know, now maybe I have one little hormone that's being helped with bioidenticals, and it's like kind of going like this. So that doesn't work for me. So now I actually have to add another step, and that step is I have to remember that I like sex. My brain doesn't automatically remember that I like sex. So now I have to, so instead of making myself bad and wrong, like, oh, why aren't I getting turned on? Oh, remember, Sandy, you like this. And then I can move forward from that memory and go into a new mystery of discovering really my own energy. It's all come down to sex being all about me. Just like relationship is all about me. It's all about what I bring and how deep and how much intimacy I'm willing to feel within myself. How much passion am I feeling in my own body that I can bring and meet his passion and his energy. And it changes year to year. So it's kind of like parenting. There's a new rule every stage.
Right.
Sex, there's a new rule every stage. And it's being in the mystery and being in tune and allowing it to unfold.
Well, that's beautifully said. Thank you. I don't know why I feel sort of relieved.
Like she did it for you. You don't have to come up with an answer.
I feel like relieved. There's some part of me that
Performance anxiety.
Yes, it's exactly what it is. I have performance anxiety even here. So this idea of performance anxiety, it's so pervasive, certainly among men, where the culture just is seething with these messages. And as boys and young men, we come up and we're pre-programmed to have certain ideas and certain stories about sex.
Yeah.
And they're all developmentally and age appropriately locked in. So I have had a different story about sex from the time I was a boy and saw my mom kissing my dad and went, ooh. And then a little bit older and thought, ooh. And then a little bit older, we were talking earlier about, I remember being a teenager in Paris for the first time, and I didn't see churches, I didn't see museums, I didn't see cathedrals. I saw lovers. And I thought, I want to live here. And I mean, it just got me into such a blissed state and a state of such longing and unfulfilled desire and such possibility, a whole energy that I had never experienced before. That was another state, and so on and so on. And then there is the whole competitiveness and competition that is a part of being a young guy. And am I performing? Am I satisfying? Am I good enough? And now I'm at a place where all of those are still operating, just like everything else we talk about on this show. Freeman and I, for years, have been talking about who's driving your bus.
Yeah.
So what part of me is driving the bus? And there is the part that I hear them all in the back. The part that I want driving the bus is at a very different place around relationships and around sex, particularly. I am now, although I hear all those voices, I'm no longer equipped. It's no longer appropriate, and often cases no longer possible for me to entertain those ideas of sexuality.
Without pharmaceutical
Without
intervention.
pharmaceuticals and notes and permission slips and all kinds. But I'm not. the most present part of me is not inclined to do those things anyway. But I hear the lessers. I hear all the lessers. The edge for me is really about closing a circuit. It's a quiet thing, and in many ways, it is a balancing act between those masculine, assertive, driving energies of my younger days, and a more feminine energy of just wanting to connect and commune and close some kind of a circuit. And so when we are connected sexually, I feel like it's a place of such peace and wholeness that I am loath to kind of break apart.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't have all the fireworks that it did once upon a time, and sometimes I wish that it did. But it's a new frontier of exploration.
So we need to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about passion. Again, we started with that. We've sort of, woven in and out of that. But I want to bring that up as more of a consistent. What is passion? Where does passion and sexuality fit in our lives today? But we need to pay a few bills. We need to take a break. So stay with us because we'll be right back here on Cutting Edge Consciousness.
Welcome back to Cutting Edge Consciousness, thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
Welcome back to Cutting Edge Consciousness. We are glad you stayed with us for this conversation. Before the break, we were about to unwrap some thinking, some feeling around the connection between passion and passions and sexuality. Freeman, I see you leaning forward.
Well, so Jazz and I had a conversation about passion recently. And again, I sort of alluded this in the first segment when we were talking about the cerebral piece. Last year, we committed to some practices, some gratitude practices. We committed to really tracking when we're going down a certain storyline and doing something that I call dimensionalizing. In other words, saying, similar to what you were talking about, Barnett, a part of me. Sandy, you said always. So instead of saying, Freeman, you always do this or you never do that, part of me feels like you always or you never. And that allows me in the very next moment to do something different. In other words, I'm not tied so tightly to that role and or the storyline that goes with it, right? So we're really creating where, we recognize those patterns, not as prescriptive as everything's going to be like that, as just threads that we can either follow or not follow. Consciousness for us is about choice. There's an element of observer where we go, oh, right, we don't want to do that. Let's pick a different path. So when it comes to this last year, the dimensionalizing has been really beautiful. The gratitude, because we got really caught in 2011 being in a little bit of the drama around our victim and how hard it was. And we realized when we moved to gratitude, a lot of that lifted, right? So a beautiful year, my best friend times a gazillion. But when you said, I want more passion, and it's not going to be a head trip, and I was like, that's my edge. And on this show, we always talk about, let's play at the edge. What's our edge? That's where the mystery is, right on the other side of what's known. I don't have modeling for what I want to generate and create, not much. I have little glimpses here and there of other people where I go, wow, they've got a connection. How do they do that? But I'm really willing to go in uncharted territory. So we're going to explore passion. And one of the commitments is the kissing practice. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. Well, we realized that in the beginning of our relationship, we kissed a lot. And it was something that I really enjoyed. And I've noticed that now when we kiss, it's almost like, hi, honey. Bye, honey.
It's obligatory,
it's
right?
Yeah, it's really like, I'm kissing you because I have to kiss you because I'm leaving. And,
And sometimes it lands and sometimes it's
sometimes
just air passing by.
Exactly. It's like one of those Hollywood kisses, And so what I noticed not too long ago was that I felt like when we kissed that Freeman wouldn't give himself almost. Like there was a part of him that wasn't really giving himself. And so then that was a story I was telling for a minute. And then I get my feelings hurt or something like that. And then at some point I realized I'm holding back too. And just acknowledging that, and then I thought to myself, well, what if it's both of us? Like there's another level of intimacy. There's another way in which I realized we could go deeper, you know, and acknowledging that. And I think that in the past we've had these thoughts that go in the wrong direction because we follow a storyline that we go, oh yeah, that's it, and we realize that doesn't play out very well. But now we're both taking personal responsibility for our kissing or our lack of kissing.
And be intentional, because what's behind the kiss? And I would say right now, right now being prior to this conclusion, going, wow, okay, nothing was behind the kiss. Again, it's sort of obligatory, you know. Even in our sexuality, kissing was like we'd skip that step. We'd skip lots of steps in order to just get things going, you know, or at least I would. And that's not helpful. Because again, the quality, it's not the same. The quality in our sexuality and what we want it to be about is different. Yeah, go ahead.
I hear something very interesting. What is occurring to me for the first time is that this discussion of practices and passion is a tip-off that there's a whole nother piece here. And one way to frame it is to beg the question, what is the purpose of marriage? It seems to me that marriage itself is an arena in which you are you give and receive through practice a certain skill set. Do you have anything to unpack around that, San?
Well, I think it's a kind of a continuation of what Jasmine was saying when you said you realized that you were holding back also. So the kissing became a mirror for you that you were kind of putting it on him, but looking in at yourself.
Absolutely.
And when I was talking earlier about the joy of, a lot of the joy of sex for me being connecting just with my own energy and my own passion, it keeps coming up. It even after 30 something years of making love to you, with you, it still always comes up. How deep am I willing to go?
That's it.
And this marriage is a mirror for how intimate am I willing to be with myself? How much control am I willing to give up?
That's it.
How much of the unknown am I, you know, I think it's the French, there's a word for climax. I think it's in French that means little death.
Little deaths.
Yeah. How much am I willing to die, to have a little death? Let a little part of my resistance die.
Right.
Let a little part of my fear die. And in my head, I love when you say you want it to be out of a head trip, because in my head, of course, I'm not afraid. Of course, I'm intimate. Of course, he's seen every part of me inside out, upside down for a lot of years. There's nothing that I'm withholding. There's nothing I'm afraid to reveal. But that's not true.
That's not true.
Right.
There's so much I'm afraid to reveal
About
to
yourself.
myself, about
That's
myself, to myself. And every time I come to the bedroom, that's up for exploration. And that is a wonderful and scary and beautiful backdrop just for our own self-awareness and knowledge and growth. And I think that that's probably why when we do connect in an energetic way, in a beautiful energetic way, then after that, the days following, there's an intimacy and a softness between us that's beautiful. If we connect just like, oh, you know, we haven't had sex in a while, we should do it, and we do it, it's kind of like brushing my teeth. Doesn't really do much other than my teeth look nice. Maybe my skin gets a little flushed because I've had an orgasm or something, you know.
So marriage is a practice. Marriage is a mirror, a self-mirror.
And sex is a practice.
And sex is a practice that is nested inside of a superseding practice called marriage, called relationship. But it is an environment in which we grow intimate with ourselves and we grow intimate with the other. And at some point we realize the other is ourselves. I'm not my brother's keeper. I am my brother. You were talking about the French refer to the petits morts, the little deaths around sex, and that's such an interesting comment you made, because it occurs to me that we bring so much mental activity, so much head tripping, to everything in life, even into the bedroom, and that sex itself overrides that. It puts us, absolutely, the moment of orgasm is a little death. It is a death of your thinking, logical, your processor. It just overrides it. It puts in the clutch. It does not function during orgasm. And what functions is a connection with a higher intelligence, not a better one, just a more expanded intelligence, a somatic, thrumming, vibratory, energetic, connected intelligence.
Which, for the most part, I'm going to throw. I'll talk collectively, though I know that's sort of against the rules in here. Talk about me, but I'm going to say a we, which most of us are slightly disconnected from. You know, I at least go
well,
around
we're all
in my
disconnected
head.
from it.
Yeah.
If we were not disconnected from it, if we were totally connected with it, would we really be alive? I mean, what would our lives? What maybe we would be, but what would our lives look like? The only reference I have.
Well, we'd have a different threshold for more. Like there's the threshold might move. I mean, all four of us sitting here have moved the threshold. There's some folks who couldn't have this conversation. So, and I'm not bragging. I'm just noting that look, there's a certain stage of development to be able to even have this conversation. The opportunity on the other side of whatever the threshold is what we all are committed to. Which is
grow and learn.
Yeah, and qualities. You brought up the joy of sex. That's a quality in sex. To me, more joy, more intimacy, more connection,
More fun.
more fun.
And Jasmine also used the word authenticity. If we use the stories that we've been given from the movies, like the kiss with the foot up in the air, it robs us.
You don't
of
like that thing with the foot up in the air?
I love that thing. Actually, it's fun. It's fun. But truly, it's connecting with our own authenticity and what gives us the safety and the excitement and the comfort to go from what you were saying, that head trip. But it doesn't just override the head trip. When you have an orgasm or when you're involved in deep passion and moving the energy, you let go of control. You don't think about the unknown, you just go there.
Yeah.
You fall into a space where we don't function. So I think that the more, and as I'm saying this, I'm thinking we should have more sex. The more
What
sex,
are you doing later?
I'm getting a little bit excited. My one hormone is actually jumping a little
One
bit
and a half
in this
now.
conversation. But
I see it on my hormone app, my app tracker.
the more often, just like meditating, the more often you put yourself in that state where you're not thinking and you're tracking your breath and you're just are being, the more time you log in that place of allowing yourself to die to what is known, the more comfortable we will be in the unknown. And that right there is going into 2013 is a great reason in itself to just, be doing it more.
Can I jump in here? There's one little piece because you said something that's interesting, and I'm not meaning to just be to be contrarian or to contradict, but the idea that sex, if it's too sort of regulated, becomes like maintenance, and it's interesting because I want to flip that. So we have a practice where we've committed to Tuesday, Thursdays, and once on the weekends.
And I'm so impressed.
Yeah. Well, because it is a kind
Go,
of.
Jasmine.
Most people are when we tell them this.
But it's kind of we've been doing it for over a year, and
I don't empty the dishwasher 3 times a day.
And we're going to talk about that. We
Yeah,
might
yeah.
have
But
more
the
sex if you
That's a
did.
different show.
Maybe we'll have
My
sex
love language
instead.
is acts of kindness. Every time you empty that dishwasher, I get
That's
hot.
the
man.
most. That is the
Sexiest thing
best
Barnet can
foreplay
do.
that I can do is empty the
That's
dishwasher.
true.
funny.
That's true.
But I want to talk about this in terms of maintenance. I'm going to kind of bend this both ways. There's an element of showing up consistently with an intention. We've got that down. Jasmine said to me, I said, well, when the sex isn't good, and she said to me the other day, I'll speak for you, the sex is always good. And I was like, oh, thank God she said that. Because I have a tremendous fear of failing in that department. Tremendous fear. Like, there's nothing I could shudder at more. Like, that's one of those ones that, again, built-in programming.
Yeah.
That's really tricky for me, which, again, prohibits my ability to take risks, right? I don't know where I was going. Help me.
Something
The commitment.
Go ahead.
The,
Commitment,
there's
the
the other
practice that
side
we
of
have, right.
that it's not necessarily doing it
That
by
it's not
rote.
routine.
And the
Yeah.
intention of going deeper. I think actually the kissing is going to be our work.
It's going to be the work.
I
of
think
the
that's
year.
our work.
But no, speaking to the Tuesday,
That's good
Thursday,
work.
and
That's a
on
good
the
job.
weekends, yeah.
We're working here. What are you not working?
No, I've had friends say to me, but how exciting could that be? Tuesday, Thursday, the weekend. I said, it is exciting. Like I go home Tuesday night from work and I go, okay, and I wear, I wear different lingerie, or I wear I'm ready for it.
I cook a
And
special meal.
He cooks special
There's a
meal.
whole ritual around
Yeah,
it, frankly.
yeah, and it's much more than just intercourse. It's
Right.
the whole what you think about that day
Right.
and how you think about your lover and anticipate, and all
Right.
that is part of the foreplay
It's
too.
part of
I
it.
get excited.
It's
Yeah.
a lot
It's
of
Tuesday. Holy.
Yeah.
Well,
and,
when
and
it's-
when I said about, if I'm not connecting on an energetic level and I'm not in touch with my passion, it's just like brushing my teeth.
Yeah.
I absolutely believe that if you commit to a routine with an intention, as you have, then my work would be to maybe do my breathing exercises
Yeah.
before Barnett comes home. Get in touch with, where am I blocking in my body today? Where is my resistance lying? How can I work with it now before I get into the bedroom? And it could be, Tuesday, Thursday, and if I committed to do that myself 3 times a week, that wouldn't be brushing my teeth.
Yeah.
But
Right.
it's a matter of, and why don't I commit? So that's a good question,
Yeah.
Right.
to just look
We've
at.
had Stevie Josephs on this program in the
We
past.
call him Stevie now.
Steven.
Stephen.
Sorry.
Stevie.
We've
He's a
had
Stevie.
we've
He's like
had
Stevie Wonder now.
Yeah, we've had Stephen Josephs on this program in the past. And one of the amazing things, maybe little known about Stephen, is he's also a virtuoso musician. And he plays his guitar probably about 2 hours, a guitar, one of zillions, about 2 hours a day. And every time he approaches that, it is a practice, and yet it is always new. It is never
I love that.
because his heart is
love
in
that.
it, and it's an exploration. It is never a retread down the path.
All right, we need to take a break. Let's get our heart into this. So we're going to come back with a little bit of getting our heart into things and getting our gut behind it. So we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll tread down that path as it relates to our sex lives. Stay with us here on Cutting Edge Consciousness.
Welcome back to Cutting Edge Consciousness, thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
And we're back here on Cutting Edge Consciousness. Freeman Michaels here with Barnet Bain, also with Jasmine Michaels, my wife, Sandy Stewart, Barnett's wife. So this is the Wives Show. Welcome back, another year, our second annual.
Building
and,
into the tradition.
And we're talking about sex. Before we left for break, Barnett, you were talking about the heart element of a practice, bringing your
Yes.
heart to it. I want to pick up right there.
It was Blaise Pascal who wrote famously, "The heart has its reasons, of which the mind knows nothing." And,
Delicious.
It could not be more evident when it comes to the area of human sexuality. Now, there are times when we allow ourselves to be unconscious, and that is not a healthy thing to do as an adult. I mean, it may be age appropriate at certain times in human development, but as mature adults, we require an awareness of our impact at all times on ourselves and on others. And then when we drop into the heart space, then things become very present. There's a different kind of connection. There aren't stories being run. And we can approach a ceremony or a practice, whether it's sexual or playing the guitar, from a place of a virgin relationship every time out. Now, this is, I sound almost like I know what I'm talking about here. It's like, take my advice, I'm not using it.
You do. I'll buy one of those.
Exactly. But I am
That's
blessed to be
fantastic.
surrounded by many friends and friends that I love and lover. I was going to say lovers, but that didn't sound. That wouldn't sound right. Who are artful in mirroring back to me what happens when you hook up the heart, being present and in the body.
Yeah, and the
with
lovers.
a practice.
I want to help though with let you off the hook. The lovers piece, because we were talking recently, you and I. Actually, we were talking about something Jack Canfield said about how he said this publicly, so I'm not outing him in a private way. He said he was asked what he was working on in 2013, what he saw for 2013 and beyond, and he said, I've gotten very competent and very successful in particular ways, but now I want to wander more into the unknown, more into the mystery, and I want to be more of a lover. And it was so beautiful to watch him say this. He said this as part of the Birth 2012 event.
On the rope line,
we were part of. And I was saying to Barnet, I love that, because you had said, after spending some time with Jack too, that was something you were committed to. And what was fascinating about that is you were talking about hanging out with Jack and Stephen Josephs and Stuart Emery over New Year's, and saying we all put down our authority. We all put down the place that we go to of playing authority, and we were in this very fluid, very open-hearted experience. That's the quality of being a lover. I think sometimes that quality is easier out, let's say, in the world with people who are, with my wife, when I do leave the dirty dishes or my socks or whatever around, and we have bills to pay and things, it's a bit more challenging to come at it from the lover energy. Right? We've been coming at this from a gratitude place, which has shifted so many things that we used to, quote unquote, complain about. Now we're going, okay, here's a challenge, but here's what we're looking towards generating, creating, and how do we want to approach it from that vantage point. Changes everything. I'm talking now about, because this is our theme, Barnet, putting down our agenda, putting down our authority.
Let's flip it to
The
Jasmine
experts.
and the experts. Exactly. What do you feel what is the teaching? What is love about? What is it that we are learning to develop in ourselves that has to do with being a loved one and or a lover?
What do you think, Sandy? I mean, I think what you said earlier makes so much sense to me. I mean, the fact that we're mirroring each other, the fact that we want to get to love ourselves more, love our partner more. I felt like last year was about loving Freeman more, and it worked. We set our intention last year, and I feel like he's my best friend. I feel like he's a wonderful lover. I feel like he cares about me. He's on my team. And then I've noticed in the past few months that we are so now, in some ways, so compatible. We let go of the story quickly. We get along so well. Fights don't go on for an hour, a half hour. Like we joke about, I'm kind of mad at you right now, And we're kind of on this really wonderful autopilot. And now I go, okay, now I want a little firework, But
healthy firework, not
healthy.
fighting to make up firework, but something that's more organic.
That's a
more
really
profound.
great point that you make, because
Yes.
so often we look for what we're after is the function, and that is a certain kind of aliveness and vitality and energy movement.
And the way we know how to
and we
get
don't
there
know how to get there
without
in an
fighting or
integrated
something,
way.
right.
So
Yeah, yeah.
let's have a big breakdown.
Exactly.
And we'll just blow things up. And certainly, a lot of aliveness comes out of battle.
Right.
Yeah.
Can we learn to become alive out
And
of
not
creating
be
connection, out of creating closeness, out of
Yes.
creating intimacy? That is a much more complicated game. Not necessarily harder, but it's a new game for us.
Yeah.
You wanted to say something. I can tell because I know your moves.
You know my moves, huh? The word honoring comes up for me. And there's something that's happened to me in the last year as I become more authentic, that word again, with myself, and honor the amount of life force and aliveness I'm willing to have every moment in my life. And the more I expand that, the more I expand my container, what's happened to me is I can look at my love, my beloved, and really feel honored to be in this loving relationship for 30 somewhat years. Like, I'm so, when we talk about from the heart, sometimes I just look at you and I think, wow, we're on this path. It's clearly a life path. I feel so loved and held and trusted. And when you said lovers before, I shouldn't say that. I mean love. Yes, you are a lover and you're learning to love the world, but I know without a doubt you make me feel so loved and so safe. I know how much you love me. Even if we both don't always have the ability and the freedom and the maturity to act on it or express it, and sometimes we need the sexuality to heighten that. But there's an honoring when I can really honor the commitment we've made, and also honor myself and deal with my own resistances, so that I am looking at you, and instead of seeing a projection of me and who I want you to be, I'm actually seeing your soul.
This is beautiful.
I'm actually seeing, when I'm in touch with my soul, I can see your soul. And it's such an honor that our souls chose to be with each other in this lifetime. And it's such an honor to be loved and to know that I'm loved. And now it's my work. How much am I going to love myself to show up?
Yeah.
How much am I going to be here present without my projections, without what I need you to be to feel okay about myself?
Or at least with those in check.
With those in check,
Because
aware
they
of
come
them.
along too.
Aware
We've
of
talked
them.
about, yeah.
Aware of them. And
It's like
and
having a puppy in a box, and it jumps out of the box, and you gently put it back
you
in
love
its
it,
little
you
box.
see
I
it,
love
and you bring it
Right.
back.
But you don't let it trash the house.
The authentic piece sometimes will supplant the word real. And what's fascinating about what we've been talking about and how it fits with this is this element of real, and then more real, and then more real. So what Jasmine was saying about there's a little bit of a head trip, and there is. And yet what's interesting is I'll process something in my head and I'll imagine something and sort of aim for it. And at some point, with that level of intention, it opens up, and I'm in something that I kind of know is out there, but I don't know how to navigate it.
It's the intention
It is the intention.
that is the more potent, if I can use that in a sex conversation. That is the that is the secret sauce.
That is the secret sauce.
Is the intention is the function, and the expression of the function, the form, that could go any number of ways.
Yeah.
But when we are looking for ways to develop ourselves, our capacity to give and to receive love, we were watching a movie last night, and there was this fabulous line in the movie, and they said, we only get the love we think we deserve.
That's right.
And such wisdom. So the love that I think I deserve, well, how much is that's also the love I'm capable of giving. So if my intention is to discover how much more can I create safety for myself and for you and for my friends, reduce their sense, their exposure, their feeling of the imminent loss, reduce their possibility of feeling humiliated or in any way diminished. What can I bring without abandoning myself? But what can I bring that honors and supports everything that that I can see in another, only because I've cleared off enough of that in myself. I bring my heart, my compassion to it, my ability to give and to respond and to respect.
You know what's so beautiful is we started off in the conversation, and I think that this show is kind of going like sex. You start off, you're a little not
We should
sure.
do this more
like
often.
if we talked about this for a few days, we'd probably be really good.
Yeah.
But it's kind of going the way sex goes,
Right.
which I sort of love. And we talked about mystery at the beginning from our heads, but now we're actually in the mystery. We're
Right.
exploring the
Right.
mystery. That's the quality of what we were talking about. So we know in our heads, okay, well, there's a new kind of mystery, and what is it? But now I actually feel
There's
we're
a
in it, and we're
soupy
asking,
frequency in the room.
and we're
There
asking
is
a lot of questions.
There's
you
an
know,
eros
we
in the
don't
room.
know
That's the unknown.
the unknown. We're
The unknown,
asking
but
a lot
we
of
also
questions.
know there's that potential.
Yes.
It's right there.
Well, and the
you know?
qualities, the joy and the connection and the fun and the, whatever else. The part that comes up for me is the willingness, which is what I admire in you and what we both have committed to keep coming back, to keep, to quote the Bee Gees, how deep is your love? Like, it's the, how much can we keep going deeper? And the answer is, it's infinite.
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 Yeah.
Up against my desire to control, up against my propensity to try to over direct and manage, but the opportunity to keep putting down my position, to keep letting go of my authority or my knowing in favor of the not knowing and the discovering. That's the joy of the journey, right?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And I think as we get older, bringing that back again, in speaking with a lot of different women about sexuality, women over 50, I've discovered that there seems to be an acceptance and a resignation. There's so many people out there that are resigned to the fact that, well, I'm not as young as I used to be, so my husband and I, we just cuddle and we call that sex, which if you're cuddling with an intention and the energy and you're in touch with your own energy and it's everything we talk about, it is the same. But I didn't get that sense. I got a sense of a settling. And, I think that that's a real good sort of marker as well. Where are we settling for less in our own lives?
Totally good.
Where do we settle for, it's enough, and I think women as a whole kind of do that. I don't need so much. I don't know. You can come this time. I'll come next time. That can happen in the bedroom. But it's where do we settle for less, asking ourselves to show up, and then where do we settle for less when we come and meet our mate, the passing kiss or the intentional kiss.
Right.
Where are we settling?
And that's another, I'm going to throw it to you right now, Barnett, the idea of capacity, the idea of expectation, where we've got the governor, as Barnett likes to say, on his little go-kart.
The settling, that comes about because we come up against some boundary, self-made, or we think it's outside of us, but we buy into it. Some hand-me-down boundary, and then we make a story about it. Oh, I'm old. I should just make this all right, and so we become small. And I think that the other side of there's a border, a freedom that we can make a freedom break for, and on the other side of the breakout, there is a relationship not with stories about things, but with the energies of things. And so when you come to your kissing practice, not with a story that I shoulda, coulda, or I come to foreplay at the dishwasher, I shoulda, coulda, or let's have less because we're getting on and I'm tired. Instead, if I come at the energy, the frequencies of things, people who are on the breakout side of this, they are relating to a world of energies and frequencies around sexuality and love. And on the reservation side of things, they live in a world of stories and narratives.
And as you are in that frequency, you're creating a frequency that is very attractive, I have to say. And you're talking about kissing, and my brain is remembering that I really like to kiss, but not on the air. But but you're creating it from speaking from this place, and that's what is
attractive.
And with that, we this frequency, this radio frequency, 1400, 1520 AM here in Southern California.
We love that frequency.
Is going to shift to some other kind of programming. We're done. But I want to say...
Coast to Coast now.
Coast to Coast is coming up next. For those of you listening on those stations for Unity FM, there's a different set of programming. To my wife, Jasmine, I dearly love you. I'm grateful that you and I are on this journey together, and I look forward to more passion and deeper loving and all of that, and I pass it to you.
Thank you, Jasmine, for joining us.
Thank you.
Sandy, thank you so much for coming in and for not getting too put out when I was 20 minutes late.
And thank
I
you
love
all
you for that, and thank you all for listening
listening.
in, and we will see you back here next week on Cutting Edge Consciousness.
Happy New Year!